Hello, everyone. This is criminal profiler Pat Brown, and this is, what is it? Patron Hangout number 179. It's actually older than me, which not many things are anymore. Hello, everybody who's in the chat room. Welcome. Kim just rolled in. I said hello to everybody else so far. Glad you're here. And if you would like to be in the chat room, click on the link below for Patreon, and it's $5 a month. I have one level. And you can come to 2 live shows a week, the Hangout like tonight and the case show on the weekends, and also be part of our community. And that helps this educational channel. And if you don't want to do that, please do like and subscribe. At least do that and check the playlist. Everything I have is public after the live show. I do the live show, and then after I make sure that, well, I try to make sure YouTube's not going to demonetize me, although sometimes it doesn't work. And then I put it up for the public. And so every one of my shows is public. So, I don't want people not to be able to watch a show and learn something. So there you go. All right. Mary's out here. It's Friday. Wait a minute. It's Friday. Okay. So, well, across the date line. Well, yeah. Okay. Yeah. Wait a minute. I'm trying to figure out where you are. Because it's 7 o'clock here, so somewhere in Europe or somewhere in Australia or New Zealand. Now, those are my 3 guesses, but yeah. But welcome, everybody. Okay, now, before I get started, I always have these little weird questions about the cat, which is not here yet. I do have update on the feral cat. Hi, Melanie. Just after midnight in the UK. Yeah, if you have insomnia, the 7 o'clock show that at 7 o'clock in Maryland in the USA is obviously 12 in UK and 1 o'clock in somewhere elsewhere in Europe. So it's not the show you want if you don't stay up late. But every other week I do a show that's in the afternoon. So it is 8 or 9 o'clock where you are in that region of the world. However, this is a good show for the U.S. and Canada, and also for Australia and New Zealand, because they're, let's see, it's 7 o'clock here. So now it's 9 o'clock in Sydney, and it's 11 o'clock in Auckland, I think. So I try to change up my times enough so you can come to the live shows. I do my best. Melanie says, I suffer from terrible insomnia. Well, let me help you fall asleep. My sister's always funny. She's like, I listen to you and I go right to sleep. Thanks, sis. But it just relaxes her, my voice, which I find kind of funny. But okay. So anyway, the cat. There is news on the feral cat. So I've had this feral cat for a long time, and he's been a bit of a pill lately. And so what he's been doing is he's getting smart, you see. So he comes into my bedroom to get the food. And I try to make him squeeze the fancy food onto my back of my hand so that he will lick my hand. So I'm trying to get him used to me. And he will do that. But now what he's doing is he's not doing it every time. Sometimes when I put my hand out over the other food, so he can't eat the other food unless he licks this first, because I'm trying to get him used to me, he'll look at me and go, I'm just going to walk away, because I know you will put out some of the food anyway later tonight. So I'll just roll back in at 2 a.m. and the food will be there. So he's got me figured out that maybe I'm not mean enough not to leave him some food if he doesn't cooperate. So sometimes he will lick the food, but other times he'll just go, yeah, I'm not doing that. But an interesting thing did happen recently. So in the very beginning, when the feral cat came in the house and came into my bedroom, I could not move. I would have to be frozen. If I went like this, just move my hand like that, he'd out of the room, straight out the cat door. And then over time, he got more used to me moving. So now when he comes in, he's eating, I can reach over, pick up a soda, I can move around, I can move my iPad, I can do all kinds of things. He doesn't seem to get upset unless I like lift up my leg big and the comforter moves too much, and then he's kind of like, what's that? But other than that, I can move. He won't let me touch him, but he will let me move now. But the one thing he would never let me do up till now is he'll come in here and eat the food next to me, and then he'll go over and sleep in his little cat bed. But normally if I get up and start walking around, he shoots out the door. So I never, he will not stay in the house. If I'm moving around, he will flee. But last night, he decided to sleep underneath the dining table right here where I'm at. And I got up in the night and I walked out and he was there. I'm like, I need to go to the kitchen. I've been waiting like 2 hours because I'm trying not to disturb him. So I walked into the kitchen very slowly, but moving, and he did not flee. And I went to the refrigerator, got stuff out of there. I started the oven. I put food in the oven. He did not move. He stayed underneath the dining table. I did everything in the kitchen, then took stuff back to my bedroom. As the first time, he hasn't raced out the cat door if he sees me. Now, he's been going out of the cat door slower than he used to. So he wasn't as panicked before, but now he actually stayed. So I consider that progress. So anyway, my maths are off, Michaela. What? Okay, wait a minute now. Okay. It's supposed to be 14 hours ahead for Sydney and 16 hours ahead for Auckland. So if it's 7 here, it's supposed to be 9 a.m. for Sydney and 11 a.m. for Auckland. Has something changed? Now I got to look at my time across the. Okay, I'm going to look at the time now. See if something went wrong here. All right, let's see. Where do I have you here? Sydney. Oh my God, you're right. Wow, what the heck? How did it turn into 16 hours? Sydney is 16 hours. You're right. It's 11:07 a.m. And Auckland is 1:07 p.m. Okay. I am wrong. I screwed that up. Sorry about that. Thank you for telling me because I think I've been putting up the wrong times. Oh my God. Hi, cauliflower. That's a cool name. Oh, shock horror. Yeah. You got me. Interesting. Okay. So anyway, so that's the cat story. So anyway, the other thing I just want to show you, just because I think it's kind of cool, is now my 3 kids are all sick. My 2 sons are sick. My daughter's sick. My granddaughter's sick. She stayed home from school, and I had to run over to the house to help out for a second. I was going to stay really far away from my granddaughter, but then she got me interested in going into her bedroom and showing me these things. And so now she was breathing on me. So I'm pretty sure that by tomorrow morning I should be sick. But anyway, the reason she took me in is she's showing me these things. She is doing anime art. And this is not traced, which I was floored. I thought she traced this. It wasn't traced. And she's doing these anime things. She's 10 years old. And I'm like, man, you may have some talent. I'm kind of impressed. So not traced. And she's taking an anime illustration course every week for a couple hours, which is pretty cool. So she's definitely into anime, which I definitely am not, but but I like the art aspect of it. I'm really, really excited that she's actually, yeah. I thought she was, unless she's lying, but my daughter said she watched her and she was not. My daughter thought she was tracing, and she said then I watched her and she wasn't tracing. I'm like, so she's got a good eye and she's learning how to shade, and I'm thinking that's really cool. So if you're gonna get all stuck up in anime, at least you should have some skills. So anyway, all right. Oh, I'm allowed one mistake. I probably screwed up the last couple lives on this as well. Why, thank you, Jennifer. Glad you're here. Okay. All right. To the news. So Cheryl just told me this, and I'm like horrified. This, where is he? Oh, I sent it over. I know here he is. This guy. Oh my God. If this is not the poster murder for not having a civilian jury system. Oh my God. So anyway, I talked about this the other week. This guy's name is Colin Griffith, and he had killed his father. He claimed, this is a year before, he's in Florida, and there was an altercation with his mother, and he killed his mother essentially. But a year before that, he was in another state, and he claimed that his father had pulled a knife on him, and he shot and killed his dad. His father's name was Charles. He shot him once in the chest and once in the head, because that is self-defense. And he claimed self-defense. Now, where he was at, according to the officials, the Lincoln County Sheriff's Office and the Oklahoma State Bureau of Investigations charged him with first-degree murder, but the charges were dropped less than a month later. So here we get a guy who claims his father attacked him, and therefore he had to shoot him twice. And so then he moves to Florida to be with his mom. His mom is kind of not bright, because mom's like, "Oh, you shot dad. Welcome." So what's wrong with you? Anyway, because he was an adult at this time, I believe. So, I mean, was he an adult? How old was he when he did that? Not quite sure. So anyway, he moves to Florida. And, oh, no, he's 17 years old and moved to Florida. So, okay. So this is what happened. Days before his mother's death, Colin Griffith ran away from home and went to his grandmother's house after getting into argument over chores, because, you shouldn't have to do those. After he refused to go back home, the mother went to the grandmother's, where she was stabbed to death. Now, supposedly, during closing arguments, prosecutor Mark Levine said Colin fought with his mother and stabbed her in the neck because he didn't like her disciplining him. He showed his intentions by his actions and words and what he was going to do. He said he was going to kill that evil bitch, his own mom. And so he did. You think this is open and shut. He's already killed his dad, and now he's also been a mental. So he's got all kinds of issues. This is what the witnesses said. They saw Colin Griffith and his mother outside the mobile home arguing, and they saw him grab his mother by the hair and drag her inside the house. And they heard Catherine Griffith pleading with her son, "Let me go, let me go." When they arrived at the scene, the sheriff's department, he became immediately uncooperative and asked to speak to a lawyer. He knows what to do. Detectives said as the investigation continued, they noticed inconsistencies in what the teen said in his 911 call and what was discovered at the scene. So now he goes to trial. So the prosecution says he doesn't like to be disciplined, and so he got pissed off at her and killed her. The public defender said he killed his mother in self-defense, just like Daddy, after she potentially attacked him with a knife first. She also said there's no evidence she was kept in the house against her will. I think dragging her by the hair into the house and having her scream, "Hell, no, let me go," is against her will. Thornhill, the excellent public defender for a civilian case, civilian jury. Ethical, whole nother question. So she painted the picture of a son who is scared of his mommy and who was trying to escape from her violent and aggressive behavior, which included allegedly pointing a gun at him during a prior incident. Both of his parents point guns at him. You heard him on the body-worn camera footage. "I don't want to kill her, but if she attacks me, I will have to defend myself." He learned that from getting away with the other murder, you see. Anyway, she died of a deep penetrating knife wound to the neck, which is inconsistent with an accidental injury. I think she supposedly fell on the knife. I think I read that someplace else. Anyway, the jury found him not guilty. And I'm like, this is just ridiculous. This is just, yeah. Thank you for bringing that to my attention, Cheryl. I hadn't heard this story yet, as I talked about the other day, but it is. It's unbelievable. It's like, there are cases which are gray area-ish. You could sort of think maybe so. This was not one of them. Did they find? No, they just dropped. No, that's the problem. It's like, maybe they didn't find enough to be able to charge him and they dropped the charges. Who knows what? There's a lot of stuff that goes on in cases which we're never really privy to the reasons behind these things happening. So it's hard to say. Speaking of which, there's a new is it Netflix? It's the OJ thing. So OJ's back. God, the guy's dead and he's still around. Anyway, because they will do movies about him, documentaries about him forever. The minute they can find any piece of information that somebody doesn't know, then they develop an entire documentary around that. It's just irritating as all get out. And here, of course, is OJ and the woman he killed. Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. He was not found guilty. So the news story is the new Netflix, new docu-series. Oh, Lord God. And let me tell you, I've told many people this before, but I like to inform people how things actually work in television world, which I do not like. What happens is you have a production team. They sit around and they say, what can we come up with that would make a good documentary series and make us a lot of money? And then they throw ideas out. They aren't concerned necessarily whether the stuff is credible, whether they don't really care about that aspect. What they care about is, will it be popular and will it make money? And I have had documentary teams call me and say, Pat, we want to do this documentary or whatever. And I'm like, this is just garbage. And I refuse to do the documentary because I'm like, I'm not doing that because I'm not going to say the things that you want me to say to push whatever agenda you have that you think is going to make money, because you're not really interested in the truth. Because documentaries used to be about facts. That was the coolest thing about documentaries. They would do proper investigations and they would come up with facts and you learn things from them. That's not what goes on these days. These days, a documentary is more like a mockumentary because they'll do anything just to make money off of it. So the new one, Netflix docu-series. Two potential. So this is, let's see here. Suppressed witness testimony cast a shadow over the verdict. This information might prove the verdict of not guilty to be wrong. Is there anybody left? Okay, if you're left thinking OJ Simpson didn't commit this crime, you need to stay on my channel and learn how to analyze evidence. It was very obvious that the determination that the civilian jury came to was emotional and political and racial, as far as OJ Simpson was not guilty. And it was shocking because the evidence was overwhelming, and yet the jury decided to find him not guilty. And but now they're saying, it wouldn't have gone that way if only they would have presented these two witnesses, and they called them potential witnesses. You know why they call them potential? Because they're not going to get into why they weren't actually in court. Two potential witnesses who say they ran into OJ Simpson on June 12th, 1994, the night his ex-wife Nicole Brown Simpson and her friend Ronald Goldman were brutally hacked to death outside her upscale condo. They're sharing their stories. Of course they are. In a new docuseries decades after they were left out of the ensuing murder trial. People who've been left out of the media, being in the media, being able to be famous, being able to speak out, having your face on camera. That, I want to point this out to you because this is very true. There is something about being on television, national TV, even local TV, because most people have never been on TV. When somebody calls them up, a producer calls them up, if somebody comes to the door and knocks and says, we'd love to get you on camera, people flip out. They're so excited because it's something a regular person never gets to do in their lifetime. If you actually find how many people in their lifetime, when I say regular people, I mean somebody who's not a Hollywood star, somebody who's not a criminal who ends up in court, regular citizen who lives a good life. They have no reason to be on camera, generally speaking. So, but there is that attraction people have. The thought of being on national TV, even local TV, it's extraordinarily exciting. And people call Hey, guess what? I'm on the 6 o'clock news. And they're just so excited. Now, sometimes they're saying perfectly reasonable things, and they're what they're saying is welcome. Okay. But the problem is there's this huge excitement about being on television. So people will say almost anything to be on TV. And this is one of the problems the prosecution and the defense have to be concerned about when they bring a witness to court. They got to try to figure out whether the person is going to be believed or not, or they're just somebody who's a media whore. You know what I mean? They just want the attention. So anyway, they're sharing their stories in the new docu-series because they're going to get to be on TV. Okay. After they were left out of the ensuing murder trial, one who later sued prosecutors for libel could have. Pay attention when you're dealing with the media. Pay attention to the words possible, probable, possible, maybe, claimed, because they don't have evidence of this, and so they have to put their little thing in there. Could have placed Simpson within a mile of the crime scene after she said she narrowly missed crashing into his SUV. This is one person. The other said he saw Simpson acting oddly and dumping a wrapped item in a trash can at Los Angeles' largest airport 30 minutes later. Due to his fame as a football star, he was highly recognizable. Well, that is true. I mean, OJ was pretty recognizable. He had a very, very specific face, not only just he was a big guy, and he had this face, and people seen his face in, football ads, whatever. Both appeared in Netflix's new docu-series, American Manhunt, OJ Simpson. The first is Jill Shively, who lived in Santa Monica at the time and encountered Simpson in a traffic altercation. Now, they made a mistake here. Claims she encountered, because I don't know that there's proof that she encountered him in a traffic altercation around 11 p.m. on the night of the murders. Less than a mile from the crime scene, Shively told investigators she nearly crashed into a white Ford Bronco with no headlights on. I could see who it was, and I knew it was a football player, but I wasn't sure who. Wait, I'm having trouble here. She crashes in the car. She sees a guy in there. She says, I know the dude's a football player. I'm sorry, but there's a lot of people out there who are big people who are not football players. So she knows he's a football player, doesn't know which. I guess she knows she saw him on TV in football, but she couldn't remember his name. Okay, fine. But that makes your witnessing a little questionable. He was yelling at another driver, move, move. I recognize his voice because I just seen Naked Gun movie. It was OJ Simpson. So now, because he spoke, she recognized him. All right. Shively testified before the grand jury, then sold her story to the tabloid TV show Hard Copy for $5,000. Now, this is it. I have to interject here because there's another interesting thing. Doing television, when a person like me comes on television and sits there on Nancy Grace, Jane Velez Mitchell, Today Show, whatever I'm on, they refuse to pay. They used to pay commentators a reasonable wage, but by the time I got there, they'd stop paying anybody, and they call them guests. And they claim they can't pay you any money because that would mean that they're buying your opinion. They're buying something. And since we're news shows, we don't do that. Hello, Hard Copy, $5,000 for this woman's story. Yeah, you do. You will pay money when you want to, but you claim to other people, you say you won't pay them because you can get away with not paying them. That's all it comes down to. It's amazing. So she sold her story to Hard Copy for $5,000. She didn't really get that much either. Her then boyfriend, who allegedly told prosecutors that she was a felony probationer and not a credible witness. So her ex-boyfriend, either he's an ex because he finally realized what she was. But she ended up suing him and the county officials over the latter claim, but was never called to the stand at the trial. She's a felony probationer. So in other words, the reason she didn't go to trial was because they decided that she was questionable as a witness, that she was not necessarily credible, and that the last thing I want to do is bring in somebody that the defense can rip to shreds because she's a bit off, shall we say. Now, the other one is Skip Junis, who claimed to have seen Simpson arrive at Los Angeles International Airport around 11 p.m. that same evening. He was waiting to pick up his wife. He claimed he saw Simpson get out of a limo with a duffel bag. OJ went to a trash can and plopped the bag on top. What was really peculiar is when he unzipped the bag, he pulled out a long item that was covered with a white rag or cloth and put it in the trash can. A long item. What, was it a machete? I mean, the knife that I think was used in the attacks was not a long item. I don't understand it. A murder weapon was never found in connection with the case. Simpson's lawyers had maintained he was at home at the time. There was waiting for a limo, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so Junis said he told the police what he had seen, but was not called to the witness stand. I think Marcia Clark forgot about me. If he was a credible witness, Marcia Clark would not forget about him. But because we're doing a Netflix docu-series, they're going to make him a credible witness. And that's the way they play this game. So now there's these two witnesses. If only the prosecutors had used those two witnesses, the verdict would have been different. I guarantee you it would have made a damn bit of difference, even if they were telling the truth. It wouldn't have made any difference because it was the verdict was based on emotions, politics, and race. And that's a fact, which is one of the problems I have with the civilian jury system. Over and over again, I have that problem because there's too many things that enter in. But, you know, I argue this all the time and I got a lot of argument back. So anyway, that's that. You know, Tina, the problem is they're probably going to make good money off of this. Now, if they really had something new and unique and a really interesting way to look at a particular case, I don't object. But a lot of times they're just sitting there, as I said, they're in this room and they're going, we haven't done an OJ story in a while. What can we come up with? That's the way it works. Tina says, I always know when I see a football player. Here's my phone number. How did she know it was a football player in the dark? I mean, that makes no sense. I mean, I guess it's possible that she recognized him, but she couldn't remember his name. Although, you know, it's like, who is he? And just know he's a football player. I mean, maybe it's possible. I'm not saying it's impossible. It's possible. And then she realized, oh my God, when he spoke, oh my God, it's OJ Simpson. Maybe. I'm not going to necessarily deny it, but I don't know what the ex-boyfriend had to say about her. So it seems like maybe possible that she was one of those people that like to claim things a lot. She's a pathological liar. And so they said, we can't put this woman on the stand. She'll get destroyed by the defense. So, you know, that could be the thing. Now, let me go to, I want to talk about, there's a whole bunch of stuff. What I wish people would not do is immediately go with whatever's out there. Oh, jump to conclusions and say, oh yeah, that. So now the Jack the Ripper case has been solved. Okay, and so I saw this on X from Jennifer Coffindaffer, and I liked her take on the Karen Reed case, and so I told her, you know, thank you for doing that, and I like your take on that case. I think you're and she is standing up, you know, and taking a lot of crap for standing up for that Karen Reed is guilty, and so I have to say that I was impressed by that. But she is working hard to have a new channel, and she's putting out stuff like crazy. And I will say she's got more energy than me. All right, she does. And I'm not saying she's wrong in doing that. You know, she's got this her count on X now. Let me see what she's running at. Wow. Okay. She's up to 92,000 followers on X. Now she is ex-FBI, which grabs people in. And over on and she's new to all of this stuff. She's retired now, so she's free to do this. So if I go to, let's see, Jennifer Coffindaffer, she now has she only has 22,000 subscribers on YouTube. And believe me, it takes a long time on YouTube to build that up. She's had, so that's just the way it is. So anyway, I don't fault her for being, you know, good promoter. I'm not a good promoter. Some people are. They spend all day long, just throwing out tweets, and then they put on a show every day on YouTube. And especially being an ex-FBI profiler, she is able to build things, for herself with her energy. So I don't fault her for that. But I did like her stand on Karen Reed, because I thought that was cool. I'm not always fond of when somebody latches onto a case and over and over and over they go over the case. And she has a tendency to do that with, like, what has she done? Oh, she talked about Colin Griffith. Let me see what she says about Colin Griffith. He was acquitted of murder and freed. And so she said, good luck to whoever lives with him next. Such cold eyes. I'm glad we're on the same page with Colin Griffith. She's done a lot of stuff with Sebastian Rogers, and I personally think we have nothing to say about Sebastian Rogers, which was why I don't do any shows about him anymore. I did a few shows in the beginning when he disappeared and the parents were speaking. I did those because I wanted to bring out what I saw then. But since then, there's been absolutely nothing happening. And I will not get into the game of constantly doing Sebastian Rogers videos. Does get good, gets your subscribers, makes you money. I won't do that. She's kind of a little bit more energetic as far as that goes. So anyway, again, we have different ways of doing things. But so what happened here was the Jack the Ripper thing. And she wrote, genetic genealogy strikes again, this time identifying Jack the Ripper, so it would seem. Now, her so it would seem is possibly. Okay, so she did put the little downplay in there. Then she goes on. A shawl from one of Ripper's victims was tested and DNA came back. Okay, right there, have a problem. If you're going to discuss a case, please at least do some research whether it is true or it isn't true. A shawl from one of Ripper's victims was tested. We do not know the shawl was. I'll get into that in a minute. And it went back, the DNA went back to Aaron Kosminski, who's one of the number one suspects in this case. I analyzed this case, and I'll put the link below. I believe the top suspect should be Jacob Levy. And I explain why in my video. I personally think he's the better suspect than Aaron Kosminski, but I understand why some people think it could be Aaron Kosminski. AK, Aaron Kosminski, was always considered to be a possible suspect, but now there is DNA confirmation. Now you're saying it's absolute. You should not be saying that because you do not know that. AK allegedly brutally murdered at least 5 women. His crimes were likely particularly heinous because he liked to remove entrails from his victims and disfigure them. Another mystery solved via DNA. Again, in the beginning, you give that little, okay, maybe we're not quite sure. Then you give statements that are absolute. The shawl was hers. The case is solved by DNA. I did respond, and I don't usually respond to these things, but it annoyed me. And I'm not totally annoyed with Jennifer Coffindaffer, but this one annoyed me. I wrote back, not solved. It is a claim, and we have no proof that the DNA analysis is accurate, or the shawl's owner is proven, or that he couldn't have simply been a John and not a killer. So I don't see this as proof. Now, let me tell you what is out. It's in the media. Here we have the problem with the media. The media will run with any story, and they just plagiarize everybody else's story. So once one media channel comes out, you're going to see 50 media channels, 100 media channels with the same damn story. So you go through each one, and it sounds like, oh my God, it must be true. Okay, so let's look at this. I'm going to go to, let's see. All right, here. Let's hear it from, I think this is CBS. Jack the Ripper's victims oh, come on, don't do that. It's reloading. Okay. Jack the Ripper's victim's relative demands new inquest after possible, thank you, CBS, DNA breakthrough, a form of justice. But I'm gonna get you the real information on this in a minute. You're gonna see why I have such an issue with this. A descendant of one of Jack the Ripper's victims has demanded a new inquest into one of the history's most notorious serial killers after DNA evidence suggested the murderer was a Polish barber. The true identity of Jack the Ripper, whose grisly murders terrorized the murky slums of Whitechapel in East London in 1888, has been a mystery ever since. There have been dozens of suspects, absolutely true, from royalty and prime ministers down to bootmakers. All the royalty junk is ridiculous. Patricia Cornwell thinking it's a Sickert, Walter Sickert, the artist, is ridiculous. The guy was not a famous, well-known guy running around in carriages and shit like that. He's just a local creep. When you have a guy who goes out in the middle of the night and kills prostitutes and rips out their insides, this is usually not somebody who's done well in life. So it's usually somebody who is just a serial killer type who just crawls around the neighborhood. Okay. After extracting DNA from a shawl recovered from the scene of one of the killings, keep that as a maybe, not true. Jack the Ripper sleuth Russell Edwards. And now this is where you come into the problem of people who want to prove something because I want to be the one to finally figure out who Jack the Ripper is. They got a book on the market, which he does. And, he wants to be the big hero. Jack the Ripper sleuth Russell Edwards claimed in 2014 that the murder was Aaron Kosminski, an emigre from Poland who worked as a barber. Now, keep in mind that 2014, because this is not new news. This is regurgitated news because they've gotten somebody interested in pushing this inquest thing. The story goes, and this is where you get into, is it the truth? The story goes that the shawl came from a murder scene of Ripper's fourth victim, Catherine Eddowes, on September 30th, 1888. There was a claim that it was hers. There's never any proof that it was hers. So you have a shawl that they've decided to sell off to make some money. And it's a claim, unproven. At Edwards' request, Dr. Jari Luhelen, a senior lecturer at Liverpool John Moore University, isolated 7 small segments of DNA from bloodstains on the shawl. Now, the bloodstains were really hers, not his. But anyway, one guy claims he isolated these 7. They were matched with the DNA of Karen Miller, a direct descendant of Eddowes, claiming her blood was on the shawl. On the testing, the first result showed a 99.2% match. So theoretically, this is supposed to mean that this was Eddowes' shawl. Since the DNA has 2 complementary strands, we went on and tested the other strand, which was a perfect 100% match. So now this is supposedly proving that the shawl was indeed Eddowes' shawl. All right. And I'll get to whether that's legit or not. DNA from semen stains on the garment were matched to a descendant of Kosminski. Now, I want to point out that this shawl has probably been everywhere in everybody's hands and everywhere. Anyway, the DNA from semen stains on the garment were matched with a descendant of Kosminski. I'm just trying to figure out how semen stains got on that garment, but okay. Edwards has demanded an inquest into the unsolved killing, saying the DNA evidence warrants it. So blah, 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 blah. Hold on a second. Kaminsky's descendants have also supported the inquest because a great niece, Amanda Polo, said, I'm more than happy to establish what happened. So they got some DNA from his, and they're saying, oh, it matched. Then you get to this. Some have cast doubt on Edwards' findings. The research has not been published in a peer-reviewed scientific journal, meaning the claims cannot be independently verified or the methodology scrutinized. You have one guy working for the other guy who makes claims. We have no idea he's just making up the crap. Because if you know, there's been quite a few DNA analysts in labs, FBI labs and other labs, state labs, who have been found to be completely fraudulent. So we have one guy who's making these claims. So anyway, 2 years ago, they went to the Attorney General and he refused the request, saying there wasn't sufficient new evidence. All right, so this has been around for a while. Now, I want to read you because I was interested in the scientific aspects of this. Let me find it. Because I'm questioning the whole damn thing. I'm like, really? Okay. Is it true? Okay. Let me find it. Hold on. Okay, here we go. This is from a science magazine. All right. The science magazine says, okay, yes, I'm not going to subscribe. Go away. All right, they're slowing me down with this annoying stuff. Hold on. Not now. Not now. Yeah. Now it's frozen. Okay, here we go. It's reloading now. All right. Does a new genetic analysis finally reveal the identity of Jack the Ripper? This was put out in, when was it? When did it come out? I got the advertisement again. And when you put not, keep punching the not now, it ignores you completely. Okay, this is 2019. So this happened in 2019. We're talking 6 years later. This is not new stuff. This is stuff that came out before. So it said here, scientists claim it's the best evidence to date, but critics are skeptical. Forensic scientists say they have finally fingered the identity of Jack the Ripper, not forensic scientists, one guy, the notorious serial killer who terrorized the streets. Genetic test published this week, point 2. Aaron Kamiński, a 23-year-old Polish barber and a prime police suspect at the time. Personally, I think he's too young. But anyway, the results came from a forensic examination of a stained silk shawl that investigators said was found next to the mutilated body of Catherine Eddowes. The shawl is speckled with what is claimed to be blood and semen, the latter believed to be from the killer. This isn't the first time Kosminski has been linked to the crimes, but it's the first time the supporting DNA evidence has been published in a peer-reviewed journal. Okay, now they're saying before that he wasn't in a peer-reviewed journal, so I'm not quite sure I understand the change here. The first genetic tests on the shawl samples were conducted several years ago by Jerry, whatever his name is, a biochemist at Liverpool John Moores University. But he said he wanted to wait for the fuss to die down before he submitted the results. What? Author Russell Edwards, see, he's an author, he has a book, go buy it, who bought the shawl in 2007 and gave it to this guy, used the unpublished results of the test to identify Kosminski as a murderer in the 2014 book called Naming Jack the Ripper. But geneticists complained at the time it was impossible to assess the claims because few technical details about the analysis of the genetic samples from the shawl were available. The new paper lays those out, the new paper, up to a point. This guy, the DNA guy, and his colleague, David Miller, a reproduction and sperm expert, claim it is, quote, the most systematic and most advanced genetic analysis to date regarding the Jack the Ripper murders. They describe extracting and amplifying the DNA from the shawl. The tests compare fragments of mitochondrial DNA, the portion of DNA inherited only from one's mother, and retrieved from the shawl with samples taken from living descendants of Eddowes and Kosminski. The DNA matches a living relative of Kosminski, they conclude. These are the guys who did the test in the Journal of Forensic Scientists. The analysis also claimed the killer had brown hair and brown eyes, which agrees with evidence from an eyewitness. Jacob Levy also had brown hair and brown eyes. I mean, yeah, there's a whole lot of brown hair, brown eyed people that were living there at the time. These characters are surely not unique, the authors admit in their paper, but blue eyes are now more common than brown eyes in England. All right, whatever. The results are unlikely to satisfy critics. Key details on the specific genetic variants identified and compared between DNA samples are not included in the paper. Instead, the authors present them in a graphic with a series of colored boxes. Where the boxes overlap, they say the shawl and modern DNA sequences matched. The authors say in the paper they had this laws designed to protect the privacy of individuals. It stops them from publishing the genetic sequences of living relatives. The graphic in the paper, they say, is easier for non-scientists to understand, especially those interested in true crime. And there's a real question about that. No, this would not be. It's ridiculous that you can't put out the real information. What the hell? How can a reader judge the result? I wonder where science and research are going when we start to avoid showing results, but instead present colored boxes. This is Walter Parson, a forensic scientist. Another guy says, an expert, a guy named Hansi Weissensteiner, an expert in mitochondrial DNA, also takes issue with the mitochondrial DNA analysis, which he said can only reliably show that people or two DNA samples are not related. Based on mitochondrial DNA, one can only exclude a suspect. In other words, mitochondrial DNA from the show could be from Kosminski, but it could also come from thousands who lived in London at the same time. Other critics of the Kosminski theories have pointed out there's no evidence the Shaw was ever at the crime scene. It could have also become contaminated over the years. So the new tests were not the first attempt to identify Jack the Ripper. Several years ago, U.S. crime author Patricia Cornwell asked other scientists to analyze DNA samples from letters. Based on that DNA analysis, she concluded that the killer was painter Walter Sickert, although many of the experts thought those letters were fake. Another genetic analysis of the letters claimed the murderer could be a woman. You see how messed up this is? There is not proper proof that any DNA, first of all, the shawl had anything that was even connected. Secondly, that the DNA done on the shawl really proved what they're saying it proved. And if they're not going to show the actual evidence, and they're not going to have other people test it, and you just got one guy said, I tested it and this is what it came out to be. This is garbage. This is absolute garbage. It's not science. And here we have everybody going crazy and there's, all this stuff. And I would not be surprised if an inquest goes through and Kosminski is proven to be the killer to be Jack the Ripper, and everybody goes home happy, and there'll be 10 more shows on how Kosminski is Jack the Ripper, even if there's actually not proof. Now, I believe Jacob Levy was the better suspect. Do I have proof it's Jacob Levy? No, I don't. And I never will. I just think he's a good suspect. But hey, if you're going to test that damn shawl, why don't you bring in some of Jacob Levy's relatives and test him out too? Nonsense. Absolute nonsense. Trying to look at some of your comments. Well, I won't read this, Michaela, but it's kind of odd. I mean, well, it depends where she was and when he got excited. I mean, it's possible that there is semen on the shawl, but I just don't think it's proof that it was a shawl. So, and also, just because it's there doesn't make him a killer, because she's a prostitute. And I'm going to pretty much think that in that particular time, and many take a prostitute off, just works the streets in any city in this country, or works in a massage parlor, works in whatever she works in. Yeah, if she's on OnlyFans, they will have sex with 10, 20 guys in a night, some of them. And they're trying to make money. So, I mean, you get the first guy, you do whatever, and you have the second guy, and you do whatever. So it's not. Could Kosminski just be a John? Sure, he could have been. He could, maybe he hooked up with her and had sex with her, and if he left semen on her shawl, there's maybe 19 other guys she had sex with that evening, or in a few days worth. Maybe she only had 5 that evening, but the next day she had 5 more, and on the day she got murdered, it was some other guy, but the semen is still on the shawl because she didn't bother to go wash it. Maybe she didn't know the semen was on the shawl. So this is not proof, and it bothers me. It's interesting. I don't have a problem. I don't have to say that I'm correct that it has to be Jacob Levy. I just think he's the best suspect, and I explain why in my video. But if it turned out it was Aaron Kosminski, so be it. Because there's more than one decent suspect. I just think Jacob Levy's the better one. But don't. Why are we against being honest? Why are we against not looking at things and saying, are we really, is this really sensible? What are we looking at here? And why should we jump to this conclusion when there is not enough proof to jump to that conclusion? And yet the media, whoever's writing books, and of course, God knows, it'll be another Netflix series in about 2 days. It's very annoying. Well, we don't even know what the actual evidence is. We got one guy who's making some boxes that doesn't prove anything. I don't know what I'd have to see all the scientific evidence that connects every one of these dots, because you have DNA, which could be highly, highly, over all those years, that it's not, that it's pure DNA. It hasn't been contaminated. I mean, if she had sex with 20 guys in a day or two, I'm going to say she could have all kinds of semen mixing up on that show. So maybe she always wiped her bottom off. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, another dude. Okay, next. So there could prove it. Don't just give me some boxes and claim it's true. It's annoying. But hey, let's go on right on the same issue here. Oh, good God. Lucy Letby. All right. Now, the Lucy Letby Innocence Project defense thing is all over the internet, and it's going berserk. And the claim just so damned annoying. So in this case, we have, let's see, where is it? Here we go. Oh, that's the other one I want to talk about. Oh, a second. Hold on. Where is it? Well, where is it? Okay, let me go to this article, and maybe it'll explain the rest of it. The mother of one of Lucy Letby's victims has said families already know the truth about what happened to the children. The parent, who cannot be identified for legal reasons, said the claim, this is correctly said, the claim by a panel of international medical experts that Letby had not murdered any of the babies at the Countess of Chester Hospital was a publicity stunt. Panel chairman Dr. Shu Li said they have new evidence about her case, which was not meant to cause distress, but to give families comfort and assurance in knowing the truth about what really happened. The families are pretty convinced that Lucy Letby killed their babies, but now they're just going to blame it. They're blaming it on the hospital, you see, and the whole medical system. And there's a guy that came out on X. He's like, "You're also wrapped up in the, in protecting our medical system in the UK, that you can't see the forest for the trees." And I wrote back to him, "Well, I'm not in the UK. It has nothing to do with anything for me. I'm looking at evidence." So she said, "The parents want the truth, but we alrehad have the truth. We believe in the British justice system. We believe the jury had made the right decision." So this is what they're doing. The panel had a press conference, and they found that the deaths or injuries of the babies said to have been harmed by Letby were due either to bad medical care or natural causes. Dr. Li, who co-authored a 1989 academic paper on air embolism in babies, which featured prominently at Letby's first 10 months trial, went on to tell reporters that his team's work was not meant to cause more distress. But the mother said it was misleading to suggest new evidence had been uncovered when it had been actually presented in court and not been found to be believable, shall we say. She said Letby's barrister, Mark McDonald, denied at the conference he was merely submitting a rehash of the original defense case. We have a problem these days with scientists who, for some reason, have no problem jumping on board against the government, against a prosecution, to prove that somebody who was found guilty is innocent. They want to prove the innocence of these people. A lot of times the Innocence Project is in on it with them, but the defense attorneys go and they can suck up whatever. And we have the case of let me find it. Okay, I don't know why I always blank. The South. Hold on a second. Let me pull it up again. And of course, I've found this absolutely. I have trouble remembering everybody's name. I do so many of these. Okay, Catherine Folbig. Okay, Catherine Folbig. 90. They found 90 scientists to claim that genetics killed her 4 babies, not Kathleen Folbig. And I will link that below because I am not a scientist, and I was able to look at their claims and rip it to shreds within seconds. It was the stupidest bunch of stuff I've ever read. No, none of their claims proved that the babies died of those genetic issues. It was absolutely nonsense. And yet 90 of them signed this petition. I don't know what proof they even presented. And she was, well, let's see. An Australian appeals court overturned all the convictions against her. And then she was pardoned by the New South Wales state government's direction, released from prison based on new scientific evidence. It was not scientific evidence. It was garbage that her 4 children may have died from natural causes. May have. Well, they didn't. She killed them. That's my opinion. Now, it's just my opinion. So, now this scientific proof is supposedly proven that she was totally innocent. The pardon was seen as the quickest way of getting the 56-year-old out of prison. And everybody's clapping. It says applause filled the courtroom, and she wept. So now she has been let out of prison, and let's see what her husband said. He's pissed off. He wants a retrial. He says you put all this so-called fresh evidence before a jury and let a jury decide. So the father of these 4 children has been stabbed in the back by these 90 fruitcake scientists. Stabbed in the back. His 4 children were murdered by his wife, according to the findings of the jury. And now, without even another trial, these 90 things, oh, well, okay, she didn't do it. So now she has been pardoned, she acquitted, and she's got a shitload of money. And my opinion is she killed those 4 children. That's what I see from the evidence. And it's absolute freaking nonsense. I couldn't believe how bad the scientific evidence was. And again, I'm not a scientist, but if I, a non-scientist, can see how ridiculous it is within 30 minutes, it's appalling. But this is something that is being done these days, where you're taking people who've been found guilty and you're finding these scientists to come up with some idea. The defense attorneys, they're working overtime to find anybody who will make a claim. And once the claim is made, and then they say, well, we'll present you, you're a scientist, so we can therefore present this stuff as if it's actually true, as if scientists are never wrong. And without a new trial, we're never going to know. But it's all done kind of in a squirrely, behind the scenes manner, and people believe it. They're like, oh, there's this poor woman. She was in prison all this time and she didn't do it. Her children all died of this genetic disorders. No, they didn't. But now you all believe it because 90 scientists. Hey, 90 scientists, Pat Brown. Who are you going to believe? It's unbelievable. And we're seeing more and more of this crap. And so this is the Lucy Letby thing. Now they're going to come up with some scientists who say this to try to get her to be innocent. And that's the way. Oh, yeah, it does. Michaela's right about the crime does pay for a lot of people, especially attorneys. Absolutely. Yeah. But she's a murderer. She murdered 4 children. Here's what bothers me. Babies and children apparently don't matter as much as adults. Because when women kill their babies, we slap them on the wrist. I guess they were in a bad mood that day. I guess they had a mental breakdown. I guess this, I guess that. They don't seem to care that this child who trusted mommy is being brutally murdered by their own mother. That should be the worst thing ever, but somehow it is not. And I don't know. I find these innocent children who their mothers kill them. The woman up in, again, I forget names, Connecticut, strangled 3 of her children, 3 children, is it? With those exercising. Looked them in the face and went. Andrea Yates put her children and pushed them down. They're like, no, mommy, no. One after the other, cold-bloodedly drowning them and watching them die. And they're like, no, mommy, no. This is the sickest thing ever. And, this is a woman who carried that child and birthed that child and maybe nursed the child. That person was the one they trusted. And I don't understand why we have some weird idea that we feel so sorry for these mothers. I just don't. Clancy, thank you. Clancy. There's too many names. I just can't get them all in my head. Fake scientists. Well, the real scientists. I don't know why they're being suckered into this stuff. Now, I want to point out something on this because I've talked about this before, but because I'm seeing this over and over again, it's just driving me freaking nuts. There is the issue of the CUIs, and this is now proliferating not only in the United States but across the world. And the CUIs are what they're called is, and this is actually Catherine Folbig has brought up in one of these issues about CUIs, that this is Kathleen Folbig's recent acquittals for multiple homicides have rekindled the debate over the adequacy of post-conviction review in Australia. This article explores the constraints of the finality principle and the appellate system in Australia in addressing potentially wrongful convictions. So in other words, we don't trust the system. We don't trust the appeals court. We're going to find another way around, and this is called the CUIs. Now, let me find just a couple of comments on this, just because it's just I should probably do a whole show on a separate show on this, but okay, this is what's fascinating to me. All right, conviction integrity units. Okay, what they're doing is they're working hand in hand with the Innocence Project, defense attorneys. In matter of fact, these conviction integrity units are run by the prosecutor's office, but the prosecutor's office hires defense attorneys to look at these cases, and they accept cases brought to them by the Innocence Project. So there's this whole group of this whole Innocence Project defense attorneys pushing this toward these units, which are being set up all over the country in the United States and all the major cities. And a lot of times they say, well, they don't actually do anything that often. It's a lot of times they're saying we have this so they could just look good. But then some of them, it's very, very political. So the problem comes down to is this. What is wrong with these CIUs? Okay. And it says here, prosecutors are political animals. They hold elected political office, and they will do just about anything to maintain their credibility with the electorate in order to be reelected. So they cherry pick cases that will reap good publicity. And behind the scenes, they can claim this person is actually innocent and he should never have been prosecuted. So we're just going to let him out of prison or her out of prison. And this is really, I mean, I just can't understand how this is an acceptable thing, that they're going completely around the appeal system. So when all the appeals fail and the Innocence Project can't get somebody to can't get their client out of prison, they're going to these conviction integrity units that are basically set up by defense attorneys and the Innocence Project. And it actually does say that. Let's say, I want to point out here. Let's see, where is it? The structures of them. Let's see. Necessary partnerships. CIUs are not alone in this fight for justice. Of the 233 exonerations recorded in 2022, CIUs worked hand in hand with innocence organizations. on 121 of them. This collaboration is particularly essential for CIUs in smaller offices with fewer allocated prosecutors or resources. Aid from innocence organizations come in many forms, such as a source for the conviction review, an advisory panel, and when they accept cases for reviews, they look favorably on cases that were referred by the innocence organizations. So basically, they're being controlled by defense attorneys. The prosecution now has turned over their work to defense attorneys and the Innocence Project. It's appalling. It's absolutely stunning. And they don't have to go back to court. They don't have to go through the appeal process. They can just have the new guy, the new whatever from the office, simply say, we find that the person is factually innocent or there wasn't a proper blah, blah, blah. And they can just let them walk. Completely ignoring the jury decision, which even if I don't agree with it, still, if that's our process, going through a jury system, all of a sudden you just kick out the jury's, you kick out everything that was done and the jury's decision, and you let him out because one guy and some people from the Innocence Project decide to let him go. And then, of course, they then turn around and sue the state, and they get millions on top of getting out. And I'm finding that from what I've seen so far, at least 4 out of 5 of the guys I've looked at so far are guilty. They were never innocent, and it's appalling to me. And I don't understand that. And now this is going across the whole world. So Kathleen Folbick doesn't go back to trial. She just gets let out by somebody who wrote a petition and people behind the scenes. And this is what's going to happen with Lucy Letby. And this is what's happening all over the place. And this is claimed that all of these people are wrongfully convicted. But they weren't necessarily wrongfully convicted. They were convicted. But unless you prove they were wrongfully convicted, they're not wrongfully convicted. But that doesn't seem to matter. Truth and facts don't seem to matter anymore. It's very, very frightening. Just craziness. Absolute craziness. So yeah, that's my little spiel on that. Just because it pisses me off when I saw this, I'm like, oh, not again. I want to mention this. This is just an interesting case. It's local, and I find it fascinating. So this is this woman lived very close by to me, probably 20 minutes from my house, and she went missing, disappeared, and then she was found dead in Ohio, I believe. Okay, then I'm trying to get back to my information here. Where is she? Okay. Okay, where is she? Family Seeks Answers. Okay. So here she is, and here she is again. And Family Seeks Answers. All right. In an exclusive interview, Dunlap's mother, now her name is Karen Dunlap, a popular social media influencer. Now, one thing I wish people would stop doing, stop calling people who do porn influencers, okay? She was on X, and I saw the pictures, and I would show you, but I don't want my demonetize this way. And it also, they are, I wouldn't call them hardcore, but close enough. So parts of her body that shouldn't be seen were seen and presented. And that was just 4 pictures I saw. So she basically is on X. And one of the problems we have with X these days, and same thing with Twitter. I mean, just Twitter, X, whoever owned it, doesn't matter. One of the problems is, and I haven't seen it as much recently, a lot of porn comes in from China. And what will happen is you're just scrolling and there will be videos of hardcore porn right in the you're like, what the heck? So if you have your kids sitting next to you and you're going through some of the, looking for something there, I'm looking for the animal video, and suddenly there's a girl giving a blowjob right there in a video. Not that you even had to click on the damn thing. I don't know why porn is allowed on any of these sites. So anyway, she was doing porn, and there was some issue about, she claimed something about she had had sex with like 100 guys and whatever. And I don't know if she did that for money or she didn't do that for money. I don't know. But they call her an influencer, which offends me. An influencer should be somebody who presents stuff that is some worth, not just a porn star. And she wasn't a porn star. She was just a person who did porn. She wasn't much of a star. Anyway, she's a popular social media influencer. She did have like 70,000 followers on X, so she was doing better than me. Want to see something? You don't. um, they're still seeking answers after a body was found in Cleveland earlier this month. Dunlap, who was last seen in the fall of 2024, left her home for a trip to Ohio and never returned. She went supposedly to Ohio to audition for a show called Baddies. And it is a disgusting reality show with some really trampy women. And it's trash. And so the women, in a house, and they're all like, bodies are hanging out every place, and they're all fighting with each other. It's just really a trash show. But she wanted to be in Baddies. So she supposedly went out there to audition. But her parents didn't know about that. Her mother didn't know. The 30-year-old, I thought she was 25, but okay, also known by her online name, Raina, was discovered in an abandoned building in Cleveland on January 18th. Investigators have not determined the cause of death, and there are no leads to what happened to her. In an exclusive interview, Dunlap's mother, Karen Jones, and her sister, Kira Dunlap, described the heartbreak of not knowing what led to her death. I get that. She said that mom says that the pain of losing her has been unimaginable. It was her firstborn child, and they've been in regular contact until November, and then she posted on social media until January 1st before going silent. We always expected she was going to be okay, said Kira Dunlap, her sister, but I can't really even function that well knowing I don't know what happened to her. This is, again, a family in denial. Your daughter and your sister is doing porn. It's not a healthy lifestyle. And that says here, the family speculates, they did actually know about this, that she may have traveled to Cleveland to audition for the reality show Baddies Midwest, a program she was a fan of. However, they have no confirmation of this, and no one knows why she was in Cleveland. They are waiting results from her toxicology report to gain further insight on her death. All right. So now I want to show you something, which is just, it's amazing to me. Anyway, so this is Karen. Was it Karen? Karen. No, sorry, it's not Karen. Going back here. Oh, Karen, it is Karen. Karen Dunlap. Okay. Before she disappeared, this is what she posted. Your hands cut off, your eyeballs pierced, your hearing suffocated, your reproductive organs shattered, dead kids, dead whales, dead pets, dead neighbors. I would infest your bloodstream, scar your face, and leave you for dead, pierce your lungs, strangle the rest. And somebody writes below, this is on X, mental illness is scary. May she rest in peace. Okay, there's another one she wrote. And Raina has to worry about hackers, scammers, and spies, people touching her, humans. And then this woman writes, I know it makes for a fascinating story if it was someone else, but it isn't. This is what psychosis looks like. This is auditory hallucinations where she's speaking in the third person. She also tweets about her visual hallucinations, which usually go hand in hand. And here's another one. If I'm sitting in a room and recognize the items I've placed in the room, then I can assume that item should have its normal shadow when the lights are off. Because I place nothing around me that could take on the form of a human, I recognize his spiritual attack. And this person says, bizarre, this was definitely a mental health crisis to the highest level. I looked at her, I went on X, and she posted like every few minutes, dozens and dozens per day, dozens and dozens of this kind of stuff, clearly in psychosis. I don't know that it was psychosis brought on by drugs or psychosis, just psychosis. But I'm going to say, whatever she might have gone to Cleveland to try to get into the Baddies thing, but it's really sad. I mean, the only reason I bring this stuff up is because I just want to always say to people, unhealthy lifestyles lead to things like this. Drugs can bring on psychosis, or you have tendencies toward that, and then it goes over the edge. And then participating in certain things that are not mentally healthy nor physically healthy aren't positive. And for us to constantly ignore women doing these kind of things and thinking it's just cool as anything, and just even like the Baddies program, that's not porn. It's just people being mean to each other and cussing at each other and punching at each other and ripping each other hair. What is this? Is this the way women want to present themselves? And is this a healthy thing? So you could think, I'm having a good life. If this were my daughter, I would be appalled. Now, I'm not saying she couldn't recover from it. I would go to my daughter and say, look, I love you. You can't live like this. This is horrible. This is, you're destroying yourself. But to think it's nothing, or to go, oh, it's, it's no big deal. It really bothers me that we have this kind of concept. I mean, people have been involved in, there's reasons people, for example, I point this out quite often. There's reasons people get involved in prostitution, especially in certain countries of poverty, because it's the only way you're going to put food on the table. Maybe feed your child. Sometimes you have no choice. But most of these influencers have a choice. They just love the money and they love the attention. And a lot of them are highly narcissistic, but a very unhealthy lifestyle. And this woman is now dead. And the family's like, how could this happen? Well, take a look at her. Take a look at X, and you can see exactly it happening in real time. And where were the interventions she was posting? A day. I mean, it was like months of this crap. Where was somebody needed to help that girl? And sadly, she's lost her life. It's just sad. But I don't like to see things like that. It really upsets me. Okay, now I had some requests on a couple things here. Let's see. This is bizarre. So this is Henrietta and Eliza Huszti. They went missing on January 7th. This is a very recent case, just a month ago. The sisters disappeared during a bitterly cold spell in Aberdeen. So here they are. It's cold as crap. And this is where they disappeared at. So they were last seen near Victoria Bridge. And then both of the girls' bodies have now been found. This one says a body found in the river near Queen Elizabeth Bridge, and the other body has now been found as well. Both sisters dead in the water. Now, it's a really strange case of what happened to these women. Now, let me find my thing on it. I have a theory of what happened to them. Let's see, where's it? Hold on a second. Missing sisters. Okay, here we go. Is that the one? All right. Okay, so they found both bodies of the sisters in Aberdeen. Hold on, I've got the reloading. All right. Police in Scotland confirmed the second body had been recovered from the River Dee in Aberdeen, near where Eliza and Henrietta Huszti were last seen. They went missing a month ago. And here is the interesting story prior to when they went missing. Okay, hold on a second. All right. Now, these women were supposedly, of course, everybody says that they seem to be happy and fine, and nothing was wrong with these women, right? Let's see. I'm trying to see what that both of them were doing. They had jobs. They were doing okay. People working with them thought they were fine. However, listen to this. The two women had visited the bridge where they were last seen the day before their disappearance at 2:50 p.m. on January 6th. So that bridge, the Victoria Bridge, the day before they disappeared, they went there in the afternoon and were seen there, like looking at the bridge or looking at the water, whatever they were doing there. But they were there visiting the bridge. CCTV footbridge shows the sisters spent 5 minutes at the footpath and Victoria Bridge, but did not engage with anyone else. Then they sent the next day. It was like 2 o'clock in the morning, 2:12 a.m. on January 7th. From the area of that Victoria Bridge again, they went back to that bridge in the morning. A text message indicating they would not be returning to their flat was sent from Henrietta's phone to their landlady. Now, their stuff was all there. They hadn't told anybody about moving anyplace. And at 2 o'clock in the morning, they send a thing that says, we're not coming back we're not returning to the flat. And then their phone was disconnected from the network and hasn't been active since. And that's it. And they're both found in the water. So I'm going to ask you, what do you think happened? Sister's brother said their mother spoke to the pair a few days ago before they disappeared and said nothing seemed out of the ordinary. He said they did not mention moving to the flat. He said they wrote a message to the landlady that they wanted to immediately end their tenancy agreement We don't have any information about that. So it's strange that girls didn't tell us anything about that. They never mentioned any such plan. The women had no financial difficulties and were saving up to buy their own property. The superintendent Howison says they may have come to harm. That has been a theory in terms of access to the river, but what we don't have is any indication a third party was involved. He adds there's nothing to suggest there are mental health concerns that could explain what happened. So what do you think? Princess says, I think a suicide pact. I'm with you on that. That's what I think it was as well. They were two of triplets. Poor other triplet. Maybe planning a suicide like Folie à Deux. Yeah, it certainly seems that way. Yes, they were twins, no, triplets, but yeah, twins, two of the triplets, right? I guess they were not exercising at 2 a.m. You wouldn't think, no. And why you would text at 2 a.m. to tell your landlady that? What's the point? I mean, you could obviously talk to her, knock on her door in the morning and say, hey, we're considering moving on. We're going to end what we're doing here. What do we need to do? Blah, blah, blah. 2 o'clock in the morning, say, we're not coming back. Well, I'm pretty sure they knew they weren't coming back. Maybe they just want to let their landlady know to not expect us. Oh, did you send this one over to me? Yeah, you did. I don't know. There's not tons of information here. They're saying there's no third party involvement, so I'm assuming it. I don't know. So nothing's come in. Yeah, it takes a while. So I'm not sure. But the only thing that makes sense is a suicide pact, because they visited the bridge. They didn't talk to anybody. They come back at 2 o'clock in the morning, send a message, and they're off the bridge. What, somebody just came along at that moment and said, I'm glad you let your landlady know you weren't coming home, because you're not, So it does sound like a suicide pact, but you wonder what, that they supposedly were healthy, doing well in life and blah, blah, blah. What would lead to something like that? And maybe we'll find out life insurance. They're young. I don't know if they'd have any. Sometimes these really strange things happen, and the question is, do family and friends actually know about stuff? And is that information enough to understand that they would have done something like this? And it gets tricky because I mean, sometimes we do joke around and say things. It doesn't mean that we're serious about something, but then again, we could be. Sometimes people cover up severe depression, hopelessness, and stuff like that. So the family has no freaking clue, And I always do point out. I say this on YouTube right now to my family, all my friends, and all you guys. This is not a thing I do. I don't believe in suicide. I am not committing suicide. So if you find me dead tomorrow by suspicious circumstances, somebody did me in, because that's not my thing. I believe in living my life to the fullest, as best I can, for as long as I can, as long as I'm given this gift of being on earth. And now, if I get to the point where I'm having a 4th stage, some horrible disease or ALS like my sister, then I would say I'd be willing to shorten my life because of the agony and pain, and I don't want to live the last bit of my life in such horrible circumstances. I will let you all know. But right now, I always say the same thing. Well, good. I'm glad to hear that. Well, they had CCTV that saw them, but I don't understand the issue about when they went off the bridge, because obviously they went off the bridge. But yeah, there's a little bit of stuff missing at this point. Yeah, there's probably more to the story in many ways. But again, the mental health issues. You take the girl who's now, went off to Cleveland. Her family didn't talk about her mental health issues. And there it is on X. I mean, it's obvious. As soon as I looked at it, I went, oh my God, psychosis. I didn't even question it. I read three. I'm like, what the heck? 3 or 4 of those. And then I went through like a month's worth. I'm like, she's seriously mentally disturbed. And it was so obvious. And I don't know why the family can't say, we saw she had mental problems, and you can see from her ex something was wrong, seriously wrong. And we're concerned that she was not in touch with reality, and that's why she went out there. But they almost act like, she went out there just to do a business trip and somebody killed her. That's what I think they're trying to aim for. But they're just ignoring the mental situation. Why disconnect? I don't know. That's a good question. By the way, speaking of phones and possible suicides and maybe homicides, I'm going to do a show this weekend. Will be, I think I might do it on Saturday just because the Super Bowl is on Sunday, and I'm not sure what the situation is, as whether like we're going to have a Super Bowl party or something. Not me, my daughter. Thomas Brown, and this is his mother, Penny Meek. This took place in Canadian Texas, and Thomas Brown ended up dead, but he wasn't found dead for 2 years. And there is a podcast called Tom Brown's Body, and the private detective Philip Klein was hired by the family and probably ripped them off blind. Guy I have no respect for. I think he's anyway. He's in that. The podcast is pretty long. Quite a few. I ended up doing. I did the whole podcast, but I read the. I couldn't listen to it, so I'm like, I'll read the transcript because I can whip through the transcript. And it's what the guy's got a nice voice, but I just don't have that kind of patience. I mean, if I were driving, I was on a trip. I was driving to Florida. I would be happy to listen to that in the car because they had nice music and it had nice. It was well done, but I can't. I just scrolled through the stuff. I wanted the evidence, and so I scrolled through. But you might want to listen to it. Tom Brown's Body, it's called, and it's on Apple Podcasts and a whole bunch of places. The question is, did he take his own life or was he murdered? And it's really very interesting. And I'm still analyzing all the evidence to determine where I fall on that. So that will be the show I will do probably Saturday because of Super Bowl on Sunday, but I haven't decided that yet either. So when I figure that out, I'll let you know. But did Tom Brown have a lot of problems that the family didn't want to admit? Because he did have something unusual going on. He apparently liked wearing diapers. It's a bit of a fetish, which is kind of unusual for a boy of that age who's a football guy. So, but then again, did that cause him to have issues enough to take his life, or did something else happen? And that's the question. And it's really actually a more complicated case than I thought it was going to be. So that's why I'm going to do a whole show on it. So check that out. Yep. Okay. I was also asked to take a look at, where is she? Oh, this case. Maybe I might do a longer thing on this. Sometimes when people bring these things to me, I'm thinking, can I do a whole show on this or can't I? But I want to tell you the issue I have with this case. All right. So, oh, wait a minute. Okay. No, not this case. Well, yes. Okay. This is Sarah Cherry. Judge denies a new trial for the man serving life sentence in the 1988 murder of Sarah Cherry. She was 12 years old. Dennis Deshane, 67 years old, was convicted in 1989 of torturing, sexually assaulting, and strangling Sarah Cherry of Bowdoin in Maine. One of the most famous cases in Maine. The defense presented DNA evidence found under Cherry's fingernails that did not belong to him, saying it could be another suspect. The judge said, that DNA evidence is vague, weak, and without practical meaning. It does nothing to undermine the old evidence, fully supported by the jury's original verdict. So he has, on the other hand, Duchesne has maintained his innocence and filed numerous appeals that have all been denied, and he has a huge group of people fighting for him. And there's a book written, which I took a glance at, and here is the problem I have. The guy who wrote this book, it's called Human Sacrifice on the Altar of Injustice. and some guy who wrote it. Anyway, but the case itself, let's see if I can find this information on the case. The reason it's so bizarre that they keep, trying to find prove that he's innocent, right? But here's the thing. Let's see if I can find it. Where'd it go? Where'd it go? Is it over here? No. Oh, I know where I put it. Did I wipe that out? I might have wiped it out. Hold on a sec. I want to pull up his book. What's it called? What's his name? Oh, here it is. His name is, the guy who wrote it is James Moore. So Human Sacrifice, James Moore. I want to pull this up because some guy wrote up a real nice little, I'm going to give him a 1 star, but I wanted to read what he said. And this is, you really wonder, human sacrifice. Oh, there we go. James Moore. Okay. So this book, okay. It's got 4-star rating, but I'm going to the 1-star rating because this is where I thought that the guy, I read more about this case elsewhere, but so here's this guy. This guy says, speculation about the time of death woven with unrealistic fantasy theories of evidence being planted. All right. 2 experts who make erroneous time of death estimates are cited by the author as evidence proving that Cherry could not have been killed until after the police towed away this guy's truck. In other words, he had nothing to do with this crime, and they towed his truck, and then she was killed. One of these experts pretends that Cherry wasn't buried in a shallow grave under several inches of sticks and brush, and therefore, I won't get into all that. But here's the interesting part about it. Let's see. All right. Why was this guy arrested and convicted? Supposedly, now Cherry, she was babysitting at this person's house, and nobody but her family and close friends knew she was going to babysit. Someone decided to rape and kill Cherry while she was babysitting. It was the first time she was going to that house to babysit, so no one could have been aware there was any habit. Now, this guy was a neighbor, by the way, so he knew her, of her. This person, this is supposedly what happened. This Duchesne guy supposedly goes and does some drugs in the woods and leaves his car on the side of the road. And this person sees the guy's truck and decides to go through the truck and look for things to use in order to frame this guy for a crime he planned to commit with his child that he doesn't even know and shouldn't know is even in that house. So he cuts a piece of rope off of the rope that's in the truck, steals a scarf, a bandana, and a spiral notebook, which also has an auto body receipt tucked inside, which had Duchesne's name and address on it. This guy decides to go rape and kill Cherry at the house and dumps in the driveway the notebook and the receipt so that he can frame this guy that he doesn't know, whose truck he just went to. And then he decides not to kill her at the house, and he takes her away and drives around with her for 13 hours. And he eludes the police, and then the police find the truck. And so all the stuff that's used to commit this crime is the stuff that this guy had in his truck. And let me see. Now, Duchesne, who's out there in the woods doing drugs, lies and says he left his keys in the truck to pretend somebody stole the truck, but he actually had the keys. And he described the house that she was kidnapped from, claiming he stopped at the bottom of her driveway to take a leak because somebody had identified his truck as being at the location and all his stuff was in the driveway. But he claims, it's just because I stopped and took a leak there. And then that's how my stuff must have fallen out on the scene. So anyway, he was in the woods near where her body was found. I mean, it goes on and on. So in other words, all the connections are there. His truck was seen at the house where the girl was kidnapped from. He admits to being out there taking a leak. His stuff is in the driveway, which identifies him. The stuff used to kill her was his stuff, the rope, the scarf, all that stuff. Her body was where he was supposedly shooting up in the woods because he was wandering around in the woods. I mean, I'm not going to get into it's too deep to get into all of it. But there's like when the jury heard all this stuff, they convicted this guy. But there's this huge innocence project out there now trying to save this guy, saying he was completely railroaded. And they're bringing in again a couple experts who will argue over time of death to say, oh, well, the time she actually died, this guy couldn't have done it. So, but then they try to explain how some complete stranger did all of this to frame this guy doesn't even know. I mean, and he got not only that, after he stole the guy's stuff out of the truck, he just happened to be lucky that the guy was near the crime scene. The guy lied to the police. He just got lucky that the guy cooperated. So it's this kind of stuff that I get exhausted when people try to prove somebody innocent, and it's so outrageously stupid. So yeah, this is exactly right. Sounds like the unluckiest man alive. That's what they're saying. He got convicted because he was bloody unlucky. I mean, everything, like 20 things pointed to he was the guy, and he's not the guy. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, it's spinning. I'm sorry. I didn't do a very good description of this stuff. He is very obviously guilty, but see, yeah. So, but I may one day do a whole thing on this because it's so ridiculous. And I'm sorry. I thought it was easier to read than it was. So, unfortunately, but it's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. And the other one I wanted to just mention was somebody asked about, where is it? There's a couple of them that are just really strange. Oh, this one. This is a case that they're now digging up the property where this little girl used to live. And she was 13 when she disappeared. She's never been found. This happened in Tupelo, Mississippi. She'd been missing for 32 years, and now they're digging up around the house that she used to live in. Now, what bugs me about this case, and I'm going to have to see if there's any more information on it, because I don't know that I can do much with this if I can't get more accurate information. So, okay, here we go. Tupelo's most famous case. And her name is Leigh Occhi. I think that's how you pronounce her name, but maybe it's Occhi. I don't know. I'll call her Leigh. So anyway, what happened here was, the basic story is this. If I can find it here. Oh, come on now. It's okay. The Steeles, moved into their home in 2000. Oh, sorry. Okay, 13-year-old Leigh Occhi was last seen in that house that now doesn't belong to her family anymore because 30 years have gone by. But when she was living there, she was last seen on the morning of August 27th, 1992. Her mother, Vicki Felton, told police she returned home that morning to find Leigh missing and blood in the house. Supposedly, she left at like 8 o'clock in the morning. I think it was 8 o'clock. She goes to work. And an hour later, she's concerned about this hurricane that's headed that direction. Although the hurricane wasn't hitting that day, but suddenly she becomes worried about this hurricane. So she calls home. Daughter doesn't answer. Daughter's going to go to school or I guess do some stuff. And she's 13, so she's not, that young. And she rushes home because her daughter didn't answer the phone, and she wants to tell her about this hurricane. And when she gets there, there's blood all over the house, and the child is missing. Here's my problem. And if anybody can find a link, because I haven't found it yet, maybe I just haven't spent enough time. But the question is, who killed her? The father did not live in the home. He lived in Virginia, I believe, at the time. The mother had been she was with some abusive guy who was no longer living in the home, but was around. And the father believed that the mother or that guy had something to do with what happened. He thought that her child was dead. His child was dead before mom went to work. And here, I want you to say, what is every article I read says she was last seen 8 o'clock in the morning. Last seen 8 o'clock in the morning. What is my problem with that statement, which I see every place? Yeah, the mom's actions are a little sus. Yes. This is also true. A mother was a trained interrogator of the army, although she failed 3 polygraphs. But um, so I think it's an accidental death from mom. What's the problem I'm having with the last time she was seen was 8 o'clock in the morning? This to me is like investigative rule number 1. Ha, thank you. Thank you, dogs discussions. Who saw her last? The mom? That's the problem. So the question is, who was the last person to see her who was not related, not the mom, not the abusive boyfriend? This is correct. How do we know mom was the last to see her? Well, she might have been the last to see her if she killed her, mind you. She could have killed, here's the thing. The last time it's kind of like, what's his name? Okay. I can't do all these different names. The problem is when a family member says, the last time I saw them, I was 8 o'clock, they are put into the minds of everybody that at 8 o'clock she was alive. Well, and then mom drives away. So therefore, if the child is alive at 8 o'clock and mom's at work, she couldn't have committed the crime, correct? I think it was a neighbor at 6 p.m. the night before. Oh, okay. That's interesting. That's the question I want to know. When was the last time she was seen by somebody who was not possibly involved in the crime? If it was 6 p.m. the night before, then we have nobody who's seen her since then, except what the mom claims she saw her at 8 o'clock in the morning. So she could have been killed at 7 o'clock in the evening. She could have been killed at midnight. She could have been killed. The mom could have gone up in the morning. She could have gotten an argument at 7 in the morning. And it all went to hell. And she dumped her body someplace and went to work and pretended she was, her daughter was fine at 8 when she left. But I'm surprised. I looked at all these articles. I'm like, why are they not saying the last person who claims to have seen her is her mother? Claims. The word is claims again. Her mother claims to have seen her at 8 o'clock in the morning. And it should put in, but the last person outside of that household who saw her was 6 p.m. So that's the actual time we know she was alive. After that, we can't be sure. And that I'm always bothered by that when they don't point that out and they make it sound like because the mother said she saw her at 8, it means the child was alive at 8. That is not true. Now, if the mother didn't kill her, well, then maybe she was alive at 8. So I'm not saying the mother's guilty, but unless there's somebody else who can say she was seen at 8 o'clock in the morning besides her mom, we don't have that as proof that she was alive at that point in time, just because mom says so. And so I'll have to look into that a little bit more. Princess says, the issue is the blood looked fresh. Okay, this is an interesting point. The blood looked fresh. They didn't secure the house. And they allowed the person of interest to live there. It's just 30 years ago. Who knows how good a job they did. What is fresh blood? Well, it all depends. Who does the analysis of how fresh the blood was? Now, was the blood so fresh that when mom came home and found blood in the house, did she call the police immediately? And the police came over and they're like, that blood has only been here for 5 minutes. If that's true, the mom is innocent. Maybe the ex-creepy boyfriend came back. That's another possibility. There's also some guy that supposedly, some church guy who later on attacked some girl like years later, and he was in the area and maybe even knew her. So there's a lot of interesting possibilities besides mom having anything to do with it. But yes, I don't know what they mean by how fresh the blood is. I don't know. And that's the problem. And then would she be able to, how fresh is the blood? If the blood is the 30 minutes fresh, she couldn't have done it. If it's an hour fresh, she would have to have killed her and then somehow wrapped her up in something, chucked her in the car and dumped her on the way to work and cleaned up herself. And so I don't know what the whole case is. I'm just bothered by the fact that I can't identify the real last time she was seen outside of the family. And the mother's claim that she called her up because of the hurricane is a little sketchy. That seems really weird to me because it wasn't a hurricane that was about to hit. So the mother's statements are a little off, and 3 failed polygraphs is a lot. So yeah, the church guy is suspected. So yeah, just don't know. So I may look into this case more, because it's this type of stuff where depends how much information is available 30 years later. Sometimes I can't do anything with the case because I just can't get anything that's solid enough and confirmed enough. Just because you got a media outlet that says something doesn't mean it's true. So unless I can access some kind of police records or whatever, a lot of times you just can't go further than that. If they're digging around the house, someone thinks she died and was buried there. That confused me. Well, that is interesting. So yes, 30 years later, they're back there. I don't know if they found anything. You remember, I should agree. They all went and dug up a whole bunch of crap, and it's gone dead silent. It's like all of a sudden they were pointing at people like they killed her, and now there's just nothing. So I don't know what happened to that. I don't think they found her body near the house. I don't know why they thought they needed to dig at that point. But again, what did they at the time? I mean, if her body was buried right next to the house, I think there'd be some evidence of like a brand new garden or, something suspicious, because it's not that easy to dig a hole and stick a 13-year-old child in it and cover it up unless you have time to work with. And if the child was last seen at 6 at night and something happened to her by way of the mother or boyfriend or whatever, there is time enough to work to dig a hole and put a child in. If you have all night long, that's possible. But then why would you have fresh blood? So that there's a lot of just don't know. I mean, it's a little confusing. So yeah, open. Well, is there anything useful on there, or is it just I'm going to say this. I don't like podcasts. I find them very slow, and a lot of times they try to bring in and then and then it was a quiet day in Tupelo, and it's a beautiful town, and I'm like, So the question I have is, are they saying anything of use? Are they presenting evidence, or are they just telling a story it's just interesting, but it's nothing enough there to grasp onto to understand the case. Now, in the Tom Brown case, it's a podcast, and there's a lot of stuff that was kind of worthless in there too. But I did find the police report. Somebody on Reddit actually gave me a link to the entire report. Now, there's something still missing out of there, but oh my God, what? I got 10 times more information out of that than I did out of the podcast. So I'm always a little, interview with dad. Okay. Well, dad is suspicious of them. I mean, I know that dad's suspicious of mom, but I will do, hopefully if they have I'm taking a picture, so I can get the name of that podcast. If they have a transcript, I might be able to whip through it. And that's I look for that a lot, because I say I can't do the slow boat, I just don't have time for it, so yeah. But I'm gonna check that one out a little further too. It's some really interesting cases. I just don't know if there's enough to go on. And the one other one I'm going to mention before I stop tonight is because I was also asked about it. Where is she? Then this one again, I don't know that there's enough evidence to go any further than just to look at it and go, "Oh, that's interesting. I think that guy could have done it." Where are they? Where are they? Oh, just to mention this, I forgot to mention this one. This is just, where is he? This guy. Oh, no, not him. That's just Shane. Sorry. This guy here, Federico Cruz. He's getting out of prison now. And just if you wonder why he's getting out of prison, Federico, where's Federico? It's horrifying that he's getting out. Absolutely horrifying. Where are you? Oh yeah, here we go. This is a 1996 crime. He was granted parole because he was underage at the time he committed the crime. And they gave him parole. He was 16 years old in April when he murdered 17-year-old David Crawford. Now you could say, okay, he was a kid at the time, as a teenager, and they got in some tussle and they killed him. No. That's not what happened. He cut off the victim's head and recorded himself talking to and mutilating it. The video was so disturbing it wasn't shown to the jury that convicted him. I love these things, so you can't show the jury something because it's too disturbing. Well, a jury shouldn't be disturbed. I mean, it'll be unpleasant as hell to look at, but I've seen stuff like that as a professional, and you should be able to see what the facts are. And if you can't handle the facts, you shouldn't be on the jury. That's my theory. That's why I prefer a professional jury. But anyway, so Jason, he was only 12 years. Oh, this guy just says he's like, how could they let this guy out? He was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. But in 2016, the U.S. Supreme Court ruling meant he was entitled to resentencing because he was a minor when the crime was committed. So he was initially sentenced to life, but now he's got resentenced because they found his rights were violated in an appeals court. So he was resentenced to 35 to 60 years, and he's been behind bars for 27. So then he was granted parole. Isn't that nice? And one of the funniest statements here somebody made just was so annoying. The guys, they was like, everybody, what is this? This is, let's see, Todd was about, he was around at the time this happened. He said he didn't have a problem with Cruz being granted parole. I hope the best for the guy. He was young. We all make stupid mistakes when we're kids, Yes, because all of us cut heads off of other people and mutilate them and film ourselves doing it. That's a mistake. Okay, let the guy hang around your daughter. That's what I think you should do. Creepy dude. I mean, yeah, he should not have been. That's not. I haven't even said psychopath this whole show, but psychopathy. I'm going to say psychopathy. When a person commits a crime like that, there's nothing normal about it. It's not something. It wasn't a fight that went wrong. It wasn't. There's no way to say that a person who does that isn't anything but a psychopath. And anybody who has that level of psychopathy at that age is not changing over time. So he is a danger to the community and should never see that. It should never be out. It should never be out. Okay, let me see. I want to find this other case before I close up. And that is, where'd she go? Where's the woman? Is that a picture of her? No, that's not her. Where did she go? Okay, I think I forgot to put a picture up here. Her name was Penny. I think it's Penny Bell. Where is she? I know her picture was up here somewhere. Oh no, I forgot to bring it over. Penny Bell. Just accept. Except she's a woman, had 2 children. Okay. And let me find it here. Hold on a second. They never solved this case. And Unsolved Murder, Penny Bell. The thing that I thought was kind of amazing. Oh, that's not the one I wanted. Okay. I'm looking at the Wikipedia one now. Okay. So this woman, who looks like a woman with some blonde hair, she was an English businesswoman murdered in 1991 in her car at the Gurnall Leisure Center. She was stabbed over 50 times as she sat behind the wheel of her car. Murder remains unsolved. Now, she was living with her husband, Alistair Bell, near Buckinghamshire. And she worked for an employment agency. She was mother to 2 children, Matthew and Lauren. The family home was undergoing extensive renovations and was valued at £100,000 at the time. Pretty nice house. This is what gets interesting. Penny had withdrawn £8,500 from her and her husband's joint bank account 3 days before her death. She had never previously withdrawn such a large sum, and it remains unaccounted for. At a police conference in 1991, the husband described Penny as having something on her mind the night before her death, that she fell asleep watching the news and went to bed early. Something was a little off. But he said that in the morning, she seemed bright and chirpy. He noted that Penny did not wave him off as he left with her son, as was usual, custom. He thought, well, she's just distracted by the kitchen renovation. So she left her home in her Arctic blue Jaguar. They have money. I'd like to have that Arctic blue Jaguar, which was her usual leaving time. She informed the builders who were renovating the kitchen she was running late for an appointment. No record of this appointment was later found in her diary or other papers, and has never been conclusively established who she was meeting. And I think this is extremely important. It has been suggested that she could have been collecting someone at the railway station. That's possible. Now, some people thought they saw a man waiting in a brown or bronze colored car get into her Jaguar at 9:50 a.m. The witness who was walking her dog thought that the driver of the Jaguar was Belle, and the man getting in was described as white, 5'10", around 48 years old. Another witness recalled the Jaguar driving along Greenford Road with its hazard lights flashing. A third witness came forward 6 months later after the murder and claimed he saw Belle driving into a car park with a passenger and mouthing an appeal for help, which he ignored. So you got these witnesses, and the problem with witnesses is you don't know who to believe. But here's what I think is interesting. It is believed she was murdered around 10:30. She was seen motionless in the driver's seat. People thought she was sleeping in blood, I guess. But anyway, she'd been stabbed more than 50 times in the chest and arms, and with a 3 to 4 inch blade, in what police described as a frenzied attack. Forensic investigation showed the killer had stabbed her from the passenger seat before exiting the car and then stabbing her from the driver's side. So she must have the window down, and he's in the car. This guy got in the car with her. Now she's supposedly going, she just withdraws a lot of money. She's supposedly going to an appointment, which nobody knows about and is not logged anyplace. Meets somebody. To me, this is not a stranger. This is not a serial killer crime. She wasn't raped. That makes no sense. She apparently went to meet somebody, whoever it was, who I believe did get in her car. She picked him up or whatever, or he drove up next to her and say, how you get out of your car and get in the other person's car. And something happened that guy was super angry. And obviously a psychopath, second time, and stabbed the living crap out of her. The money, I guess, was never found. But now apparently she was in a car park. That's where her car was. Now she's in a car park. Why? And she's parked behind this like hedge, which prevented a lot of people from seeing what was going on. Why was she in the car park? No, I guess to meet somebody theoretically, or to go there with somebody to have some discussion. They believe the killer would have been heavily bloodstained. Well, 50 stabs, you'd think so. But no witnesses came forward to say they saw anyone covered in blood at or near the scene. Witness Patricia Perry did see a car leaving the Grinnell car park at speed and being driven erratically around the time of the murder. So somebody could have pulled in next to her and whatever happened. The police investigation determined Belle was a happily married and successful businesswoman, and they had no reason to. There was no any issues going on. Police believe that it's very likely Belle knew her killer. Yes, absolutely, but have struggled to ascertain a motive. They don't believe robbery was a motive because her handbag was still in the car. No sign of sexual assault. The frenzied nature of the attack suggests a personal motive. Now, sometimes a serial killer will stab 50 times too for the fun of it. Some people who just like to stab a lot will do 50 times. But this seems like somebody got in the car with her. So, and for what reason? So anyway, 4,000 people have been questioned since 1992. And you wonder how the police have to deal with this. Anyway, this is the weird part to me. A former neighbor of the Bell family from when they lived on Whitmer Road before moving to Bakerswood, John Richmond, was arrested by the police in 1992 after he sold a story to the Sun newspaper. What is it about selling stories? They got him, in which he admitted being the man Belle had been with on the morning of her death. Now, this is, I think, the interesting part. Why would he do that? He said he was with her. He claimed to have been in a secret relationship with Belle at the time. Now, you could think he just wanted to make some money. He didn't say he killed her. He just said he was with her that morning. Now, if he did kill her, why would he admit to being with her that morning? Does anybody have a clue why he would go and admit that he was in a relationship with her? I don't know that the $8,000 was taken that day. She would have taken money out, but I don't. Well, either somebody took the $8,000 because she had it with her, or something else happened with it. Blackmail does seem possible. A lover she was breaking up with, he wanted money, or she was going to tell? Maybe. That's all. That's a good makeup. Dog's discussion. It's a reasonable theory. But why would, if he committed the crime, why would he go to the son, tell them he was her secret lover, and he was in the car? He not in the car, but he was that he was in a secret relationship with her and had been with her on the morning of her death. Why would he do that? What is the number one reason why he would say that? Come on, somebody. I can't read what that says. Because the next sentence that comes next is exactly why he would say what he did. Well, no, that's true. She can't dispute it. But why would he even want to admit he was with her that morning? Why would he say that? Now, this is interesting. Yes. Could it just be he wants attention and he's a whack job? This is possible, but I don't think that's the reason. Let me read you the next sentence. So he said he was in a secret relationship with Belle at the time. His fingerprints were found in Belle's car. This is the problem. So his fingerprints are in her car. In case he was seen, yes. If you're committing a crime and you think, oh my God, those people saw me. They saw me. They saw my car, and not the DNA, but it was 30 years ago. But the fingerprints were there. So yeah. So if he knows his fingerprints in the car, my guess is he was in the car. And where would he be in the car if she was driving? He would be in the passenger seat, which is where the attack started. At least that's theorized. I mean, theoretically, she could have opened a window and he could have stabbed her through the window and then gone around and got in the seat and stabbed her the rest of the way. I can't say which way it is. But he's explaining away the evidence because he knows there is evidence. Now, but here's what happened. He was eventually released from the police bail, and they decided not to charge him. The police investigation then wound up with Richmond being described as completely in the clear. Police interviewed him again in 1994, and after he claimed Belle was killed by an assassin and that he had been paid 30,000 pounds by the man behind the murder to keep quiet. He claimed he knew the identity of the murderer because he was asked to recommend a hitman to carry out the knife attack, but he didn't know Belle was the victim. What? So now you get some really wacky stuff here. They did have the husband as a suspect because it was an insurance payout, but they found no link. And he had an alibi and had no link to the crime. I guess I didn't find a hitman on that. So yeah, they thought Robert Napper could possibly be it. That's the guy who killed Rachel Nichol, serial killer. But in 2021, they offered the daughter's offering more reward money. But I'm having a real problem with the old neighbor and his original claim that he saw her that morning and was having an affair with her. And now it doesn't mean he was having an affair with her, but he could have been, and that's why he could have been blackmailing her. Or could be a bunch of stuff. But the fact that he had to explain away his fingerprints in the car because he was with her, and he admitted to being with her that time, right before she got killed. So it's not like he could have just said, I met up with her a few days ago, and I got in her car because we wanted to talk about something. He could have explained it away in a different way. Is he guilty of the crime? Well, he's either a real nutter, but his fingerprints were in the car. And so he would be my top suspect, but I don't know that there's any other proof. I don't know why they dumped him as a suspect. I don't know. They just couldn't get enough outside of the fingerprints. They had fingerprints. He was in the car, but they couldn't come up with anything else. I don't know. But that's why sometimes these things are 30 years old. Can I go further than this? Probably not. Do I think he's a top suspect? Yes, I do. And that's the one reason. But, I don't know what kept them from. Yeah, well, sometimes there's good evidence and sometimes there's just nothing. I mean, when we take a look at the guy who killed the little girl up in Maine, there was a massive amount of evidence. And that's why the judge is like, supposedly this DNA that they found under her fingernails doesn't match him. So here we go again. But what about all the other evidence? What about the massive amount of evidence that proves that he was the killer? So one of the problems we have with DNA today is that the defense attorneys are really leaning on that because if they can come up with anything, especially touch DNA, which again, a child is playing with a lot of kids, just like JonBenet, you're touching a ton of kids, and God knows what you have, and you don't wash your hands all the time. So you could have 20 different kids' DNA under your fingernails, and they find something and they say, oh, look, this is the killer. And the question is, most of the time, they're not getting DNA from all the children. So if they don't do all that, I've never once heard, by the way, as far as the Ramsey case goes, I've never once heard John Ramsey say they DNA'd all the children that JonBenet came in contact with. Why not? Why wouldn't you want every one of those children's DNA to be tested? Because she had supposedly had 2 male DNAs and a female DNA. That's 3 people who were clearly not in the house killing her. So you got 2 males and 2 female, but it doesn't mean 2 males are adult males. The female is an adult female. Could just be 2 little boys and a little girl. But have they ever tested all the children? I haven't heard anything about that. So in this particular case, again, we have a 13-year-old doing babysitting and stuff like that, brothers and sisters, oh, God knows what else. Going to school. Kids touch a lot. They touch a lot. They roll around. They drool on each other and all kinds of stuff. Put their hands in each other's mouths. The gross little creatures. So they could easily have DNA. And so it all depends. I mean, if it's absolutely proven to be semen DNA or blood DNA, that could be a different issue. But a lot of times these defense attorneys will look for any kind of DNA that they can claim is going to belong to some unknown killer. And and they're not even concerned that they find the unknown killer. As a matter of fact, a lot of times they don't want to find the unknown killer because there is no unknown killer. So in the JonBenet Ramsey case, if John Ramsey wants people to continue to believe that this group of people came in and attacked JonBenet, he's not going to want to find the killer because he wants it to be the unknown out there that'll always be a possibility and always have people go, well, you never know. Maybe somebody did come in. Maybe there were 3 people. They haven't identified who they are, so maybe they're still out there. So anyway, yeah. DNA off the tape on, yeah, and of course, the one other thing they're always hoping is that somewhere along the way, somebody actually adds DNA to the crime scene, like a police officer, a lab technician touches something he shouldn't have been touching. Some kind of contamination happens. The defense can't wait for contamination because if they can get contamination, then again, wow, somebody else did the crime. There's DNA that isn't Scott's on the tape. And that's the old trick. Again, the saddest thing about it all is that everybody deserves a defense. I mean, that's the way a system is set up, that they deserve to have a proper and decent defense. But I don't think that's what we're getting. I think this whole defense thing has gotten so out of hand that they're not caring one bit about actually getting justice. Just if your client is truly innocent, you want to get justice for him. The guy's completely guilty. You want to get justice for the victim. You want justice, and it shouldn't matter whether you're, if you're representing somebody, but to actually dredge up a bunch of phony stuff to get your client off. That's not justice. It's not justice for your client. It's just, it's absolutely despicable and it's unethical, but that's where we are these days. He's got I think Scott Peterson has a new team now too. No, that's the Menendez brothers. Sorry. They got a new team. Yeah. So, but the longer you go away from the time of the crime, the more likely it is for people to believe the person didn't commit the crime. Because the victim is forgotten and the person in jail is the one that's talking and trying to be nice and saying, I didn't do it. And people get attached to who is still alive. And so the farther away it gets, the people lose the tragedy of the crime itself and start feeling the tragedy of the wrongly convicted. So, yeah. Oh, this is true too. Cauliflower. Yes, I feel like people think that any iota of doubt is reasonable doubt. It's not. It's reasonable doubt. This is correct. What a reasonable person would question whether this person should have been convicted, because don't think the evidence was solid enough and it's too much question. Yes, but it's like, yeah. Oh, look, the guy's running from the house with a knife saying, I killed her. I killed her. And his, and he's, and everything points to him. And then they found this DNA over there at the house. Like, oh, see, it's somebody else. And everybody goes, no, that's doubt. I have reasonable doubt. Why would you have reasonable doubt when the guy's running from the house with the weapon that killed her saying, I killed her, I killed her? What part don't you get? Because you can always find something that just say, oh, well, there was a different fingerprint on the window. And, yeah, so it's just nonsense. Yeah. But anyway, yes, that is true. Defense just needs to plant doubt and not who really did it. And again, I'll go for the professional jury system, because you're not going to be able to plant doubt in a professional jury as easily as you can plant doubt in a civilian jury. That's just the way it is. I mean, there are times when I can, evidence will have me doubt, and that would be reasonable doubt. But I'm not as likely to fall for a bunch of silly stuff, because I know from the comments I've gotten on many of my videos when people say, I know that person's innocent. I'm thinking, oh my God, don't get on a jury anytime soon. You'll just, and they're adamant, and they believe just about anything. And unfortunately, that's a person who is untrained and unskilled in basically profiling and crime scene analysis. And those are the people who end up on a jury. And so even if you got a bunch of people on that jury who are really paying attention and really smart and really doing their absolute damn best, you got one or two of them going, no, I don't think I did it. And that's the end of that. It's just crazy. But anyway, okay, that's it for tonight. I will say probably maybe Saturday as opposed to Sunday, but let me figure it out. If you want to, go forth and check out Tom Brown's Body, which is the name of the podcast, please do. I'm going to cover, of course, the major stuff that's said in there. And I've got also the police report, which is very useful, 200 pages or whatever it was. But and a lot more complicated and interesting when you actually know some of the details. There's a lot left out of that podcast, just a lot of stuff. And I'm like, what? And I'm like, I'm going, where did this happen? When did this happen? How did this happen? And it's still, even the police report's a little vague on a lot of stuff, and it's very annoying. So, of course, when I analyze cases, what I let you know is where I'm annoyed, where I don't have enough information to absolutely be sure of stuff, because I feel like I'm missing something. And I'll let you know that when I analyze it. But it's an interesting case. Very, very much is. So worth it because of no ads. Well, that's why if you come here for the lives, you don't have ads. If you join Patreon and come for the lives, you do not get the ads. But believe me, you patrons who sign up for Patreon and thank God help support this educational channel, I get money from two things, which is one is patrons signing up, and sometimes for a super thanks. And then I have my ads. And this month I've lost 2/3 of my income on the ads. 2/3. I don't know why. So it's been a very horrible month. Everything's just kind of crash and burn. Some people say it's just because it's January, but when people say, I go to YouTube and I can't stand it because it's got all the ads. Why do you have all these ads on there, Pat? Because that's how you make money. Because if I do these shows and I have no ads, I would not do this channel. I can't afford to. That's how you can earn a living. And otherwise you're going to do work full time and you're not even going to get a payday, and you can't do that. And I have to go do something else. So you have to have the ads. But if you do YouTube a lot, and I pay to have no ads on YouTube, and you can do that. I forgot what the cost is. It's $12 a month, something like that. But for me, it's worth it. I do so much stuff on YouTube. I look at art stuff. I look at travel stuff. I look at other channels for the crime stuff. I watch YouTube all the time. There's so much stuff I find useful on YouTube. I don't want to see the damn ads. I don't want to waste my time with it. So I pay the money, so I don't have one shred of ads on any of my YouTubes when I watch YouTube. So if you do a lot of YouTube, it's worth it. I think it's worth the money. And now I have other channels like Prime Video and Oxygen. Oh, I have like 5 or 6 different channels I have to follow for the crime stuff. And I did not pay to get rid of the ads on those channels. But because I'm usually watching a documentary or something, what I do is as soon as I go to the ad, I just go on. I have 2 things running at the same time. So as soon as the ad comes, I'm on my phone and I'm checking out, my work. I'm doing my work over here or checking my email or whatever. And as soon as it comes back on, I go back to watch it. Next ad comes, I go do something else. So I don't actually watch the stupid ads, but anybody who's on YouTube, I mean, that's why we have ads, because we can't survive without them. And so sorry about that, but we need food on the table. So, but, oh, you read the 250-page report. Oh, interesting. All right. Good for you. So, well, thank you. Thank you very much. Dogs discussion. Yeah, it is long, but some of it's nonsense. But anyway, bye everybody. And again, if you're new to the channel, please do like and subscribe and check out my other channel, which is my advice channel. If I mentioned, I was going to mention that at the beginning of the show, but I forgot. Yes, my advice channel. Please do check over there. And I'm working on trying to get to the monetization point there so that channel can survive. I still need 102 more people and another 1,500 hours of watch time. It's not fun to try to get a channel going. I mean, thank God this one's going, but yeah, it's a tough job. So check that out, and please go over there and watch stuff and subscribe and send me your questions so I can answer advice questions. Anyway, so I'll see some of you on whatever day, Saturday or Sunday, depending on which way I go with it. But if you're in the U.S., yeah, Kansas City is in the Super Bowl, and that's my team. So anyway, even though I live in Maryland, but our team here lost. Both of our teams here lost. So, that's my other favorite team. So anyway, bye everybody.